You go to REI and buy Co-op DRT 1.1, it is not going to look like this. I've done quite a bit of work on this for one. So I guess we'll just start at the back and I'll work my way forward and kind of explain what's going on. Start at the back and we're going to go to the front here. Namely, you'll notice a distinct lack of dork disc. This is obviously not a kickstand that you would take out with you. Most mountain bikers don't really run kickstands on their bikes. That's just extra weight. It's not really all that necessary. But you need to work on your bike. This is a handy little thing, and it's a whole lot cheaper than one of those stands that mounts to the seat post and holds the bike up where it would be much more comfortable to work on. Okay, so I cheaped out. I want to get one of those eventually. Anyways, all right. So the other thing I got going on here is I got this lizard skin. What this does is this just kind of protects your chainstay from getting beat to death by your chain as you're going up and down the trail. Because while you're going, you know, this thing's flopping and flying around all the time. Anyway, so it'd be banging up against that chainstay, scratching the paint, all kinds of stuff, so that kind of helps with that. The other thing I got going on here, so this is a chain guide. A lot of people will run them attached to the seat stay up here. This one in particular was like a 3D printed one I found on Amazon. I think the same seller had like 3 or 4 different versions of it, but that's all it does is guide the chain. It keeps this bottom section of chain from flopping around just a little bit too much, and that's kind of helpful because the other thing I've got going on is these cranks and this chain ring here. So this is a really cheap oval chain ring that came with these crank arms. I've done a lot of work in this area to make this work. Okay, so originally this bike was a 3x7 and I wanted to make it a 1x for 2 reasons. Number one, doing so allowed me to remove the shifter on the left. It also dropped a ton of weight because in place of what is this one chain ring here, there were essentially 3 bolted together. Well, not bolted, kind of welded or riveted together. But anyways, to get this on, I had to do a lot of work. As you can see, there's some spacers in here to bring the chain ring back this way. And that is to make sure that the chain line is somewhat straight. Because that can cause all kinds of problems with shifting. You know, if I didn't have these spacers in here, it would have all kinds of trouble shifting. Like I would shift it and go up and it'd go back down on its own, and there'd just be all kinds of problems. But anyways, so I also took the time to fancy it up. You know, these bolts weren't here. I had to order those. Everything that's red, pretty much. So pedals, those are not something you'll get on the OEM bike either. These are Rock Bros. Moving up, a quick release seat clamp. If you ever need to drop your seat post, you know, for sketchy downhill or something like that, you don't want your seat hitting you in the butt and bucking you off. You just pop that down, lower your seat. Saddlebag, this is important. Not really important. It's got extra storage space. Currently all I'm doing is keeping my CO2 cartridges and that little tool in there. I don't know that there's really anything else in there. What is that? What is that? Grips. Race face. You just slide those on there. The only real thing you have to do maybe is measure the width of your handlebars and find the right ones that will fit. That and the pedals are pretty easy upgrades. And when I say pedals, I mean just this thing right here, okay? Like this is a whole process. You need special tools to replace these. Probably the highest costing thing that I have put on this bike is a replacement fork. Okay. This is a RockShox. I believe it's a Recon RL. The same day that I took all that original footage before this point, I went out and rode over in Woodway Park and ended up destroying my chain ring. Ooh, that almost went bad. That almost went really bad. But, hello. I just dropped the chain in a big way. That's what happens when you go off of stuff like that, Bob. Look at that. So I've done some more upgrades since then. I guess most of them are really more of replacements, but there were a couple upgrades involved that I wanted to go ahead and show you guys, just to get a current status of my bike all in one video. First things first, we replaced the snail chain ring with a MS Rec chain ring. I bought it primarily because it was cheap and it had the word Rec in it, which I probably do a bunch. In the process of doing that, I also replaced the bottom bracket, which I've got a video in the pipeline of how to replace the bottom bracket on your bicycle, or at least for this square tapered one. You can check it out when I post it. I don't know when I'm going to post it, but it'll be coming soon. The other upgrade that I did, brand new tires. As you can see, I've got brand new tubeless valves with the cool little rocker horns. Thanks for checking out my bike. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want alerts, make sure you polish that bell.